As my friend Joaquin Simo would say, I'm not mad at that.
Hello and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time. I'm your host, Tammy Coxon, and I am thrilled to be here today with Dave Wondrich. Now, I know Dave mostly as a cocktail historian, is really how I got familiar with you because I teach cocktail classes, and
It's a lot of what I do, that's for sure.
so many of the stories came from you, and you have been on my list of people to taste tiny bottles with since I started the project, basically.
Well, it's always a fun project, and I love tiny bottles, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Excellent. Why don't you tell tell the people what else you do besides inspire me?
Uh, yeah. These days, I'm mostly writing books. I just finished the comic book history of the cocktail, it's called. And so it's like a graphic novel style history of the cocktail in full color with like real comic book type illustrations. And so that's coming out in September. And that turned out to be a lot of work, but it's done and it's out. Before that, I did the Oxford Companion to Spirits and Cocktails, where I was the editor in chief of that nightmare project. But
it certainly proved to be really useful in researching some of these bottles and just different kinds of spirits.
Well, I'm glad to hear it because that was the whole point of the
Yeah,
thing. It was
amazing research guide.
what's in my glass, and that was our motto is like, tell me everything about what's in my glass.
I got gifted a hard copy for Christmas,
Uh-huh.
and then shortly after that, got the ebook copy. So
Oh,
I
nice, nice. Yeah. That helps.
yeah,
There's just so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's a huge book. But and then I've written other books, and I wrote for magazines forever, and occasionally do still, but not as much as I used to. I wrote for Esquire for 17 years,
Did.
Daily Beast for like 6 years, and
And that's where we met the first time. You were on a Daily Beast tour with Noah Rothbard.
that's right.
And we met years ago at the Detroit Athletic Club.
That was fun.
That was fun. All right. Well, I reached out to you and I said, hey, would you like to do this? And you said, sure. And I sent you the list of things to choose from. And you immediately, without question, were like, I want to taste the Armagnac and the Remy Martin Cognac. Why? I guess I would have thought, I had you pegged that you were going to ask to taste Scotch.
Well, I love Scotch. I love bourbon. I love rye. I like most of the spirits, but there's something about cognac and Armagnac, about French brandy, that is just really dear to my heart. That's sort of, to me, that's the good life. When you're drinking like a really fine cognac or a really fine Armagnac, it's just, it doesn't get better. That's sipping spirits. Like Scotch, I think that for me, that's a sports drink. You drink it outdoors when it's cold and the wind is blowing sideways, little particles of rain in your face.
Scotch nerds around the world going, what?
Yeah. Well, I've drunk it in the Highlands in like those circumstances, and it's like, oh, that's why they make it this way. That's why it's smoky and big and brawling. But cognac is just like such a fireside drink for me.
Well, I have two that you picked out. So you picked out this Remy Martin VSOP. So this is probably from, I think I figured out like the first half of the 1980s is my guess on this one. And then very similar time period, I have this absolutely beautiful Marquis de Caussade Armagnac, which came in what we think maybe was like meant to be a little Christmas ornament or just a way to hang it in a store. Because it is its own little brandy sniff jar.
That is just the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
It really is.
And, couldn't we have more things like that? I love it.
We get some weird oddball things.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of put this at like the early 80s because that was when they were doing this big marketing push for Armagnac, trying to get Americans to drink it again.
If only,
But this is the sort of thing you
it's funny when you say drink it again, because we never really drank a lot of Armagnac.
No, but then they drank some and then they stopped drinking because of the whole dating scandal. And then they tried to get people to drink it again. They never really did.
Well, in the 19th century, a lot of Armagnac was shipped over here, but you never, ever, ever find it advertised for sale.
Well, and I think it was shipped in barrels because
Yeah, it was.
right, because Marquis de Caussade was the first guy, like the guy, Marquis de Caussade was the first person to bring bottles of Armagnac to the U.S. in 1934, according to his
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I believe it because I spent a week driving around Armagnac with Jim Meehan and Toby Cicchini and Max Watman, who are all very much characters in their own right, and touring Armagnac distilleries and negociants and all that stuff, and everything there is small.
Oh yes,
there are no big companies in Armagnac.
And these guys, for a time, were the big
company. Yeah, and they're not big.
Not anymore.
Well, not compared to the cognac guys.
Absolutely.
They're all tiny. They're all like almost I won't say artisanal, but they're all manageable.
Yeah.
But none of them have like marketing muscle of any kind whatsoever.
Right, and that was the idea here.
Yeah.
We kind of tried to put it all together. What should we start with for tasting?
Let's start with the cognac. That's kind of more familiar.
All right. Do you want to try? Because I usually fail.
Oh, that came easily.
Beautiful.
Well, that is Remy. They want people to drink this.
That's right. And I find it's you can't be timid. Like you got to go and not.
Yeah.
Because if you get halfway, you're lost. Right.
You can already smell it.
Good. That's a good sign. The brandies, by and large, have held up pretty well.
They're made, they're made for long aging, long lagering, so to speak.
Yeah. Definitely very aromatic. Right out there.
Well, yeah, that's Remy.
Okay, so I don't know any of the cognac brands. Like I don't have all cognac for me. So what defines Remy for you?
Remy, each of the big brands have a house style. Mm-hmm. And I think Remy's house style, from what I've learned and what I've gathered from tasting a lot of it, is they put a little bit of very much older cognac in to give this like old cognac aroma. Then the rest of it is, younger, of course.
Right.
But we're in VSOP territory, and VSOP is quite drinkable.
Yes.
VS cognacs in general, I'm not a fan of, but this is aged enough to be good, and it smells good.
It really does smell good. It's very aromatic. I mean,
yeah, fruity, but there's a lot of wood and wood spice notes in there. Yeah,
I would say definitely fruity was the first thing I got. It doesn't really have, those sort of like the wood notes that you get from a bourbon that are more butterscotch and vanilla, those sorts of things. I don't get as much of that here. It's really the fruit.
No, you get more like cinnamon from French oak, and there's also a little bit of like forest floor in there, a little something old.
Sure.
A little musty.
Well, I will be interested if we find the dusty bottle taste that I get in a lot of these old minis, if I find it in here.
Yeah, I think in 1980s we're kind of on the cusp.
Yeah.
It's all
right.
Well, let's try it.
Going in. Certainly a nice sip.
As my friend Joaquin Simo would say, I'm not mad at that. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
That's very sippable.
It is. It tastes kind of like how it smells.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't get a big surprise on the palate. Definitely still quite fruity.
But you notice like it's like very young and fruity, but then there's this like bit of like old mustiness and old like furniture shop and stuff like that.
Like almost like a leather, if we were talking.
Yeah, exactly. And that's from their house style, where they put in just a little bit of extra of rather much older cognac than say like Courvoisier uses, who tends to keep everything like pretty much on the young side and make it just brighter. This is a little more.
Oh, the second sip was really nice.
Yeah, let's try that.
You got to wake up. It's the first thing I've drunk today, so it's like needed that second sip. Now I've got almost like a more caramel, almost a little bit of a chocolatey something.
Yeah, like dark chocolate. Yeah. Maybe even it's even a little bit briny.
No interest.
I get a little, just a hint of something.
Just a hint. Yeah, so you talked about they have, they're putting in a little bit of old stocks.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so interesting. And what I talked about in the bottle episode about the Remy Martin is how much cognac is a product of blending.
The blending process is so much more complicated than the aging process. than we get with like whiskey and
Right.
with an American or Canadian whiskey, or Scotch whiskey for that matter. They blend all these different batches and they make like intermediate blends that they then age.
Again.
Yeah,
Right.
everything is it's very, very worked on.
Yeah, it's not like here where the cask is the cask and you don't do anything with it after that and you get whatever whiskey's left in the cask, right? There they're putting stuff together and then taking things out of the cask. The whole demijohn system is also really
once it's enough wood, they're done, and it goes into glass.
Right, but they're not bottling it right away. They're saving it so they can blend it, and that's why we get these really complex spirits. Well, this is lovely.
Yeah, this is quite good. It's still quite pleasant to drink.
Really, really fresh, bright. Yeah. I mean, have you drunk Remy recently? Does this?
This is a little richer than Remy these days in my as far as I can recall, but I don't have a bottle to taste side by side. It's not my house mixing cognac.
Yeah, so. Right. All right. Well, should we move on to talk about Armagnac?
Let's try this. I'm looking forward to this. You don't get to taste a lot of old Armagnacs like this.
I'm not even sure how we're going to get into this one.
Do you need a knife?
I have a corkscrew. I've started bringing my own.
Yeah, let's see. It's plastic.
I've got a little knife, right? Yeah. I think there's.
I just got to cut around the. I would just cut around the edge up there.
Oh, you think up there? All right. So talk about Armagnac. How is Armagnac different than Cognac?
Armagnac uses a slightly different still that gives a little bit of a leaner product that comes off of it. But Armagnac is made almost universally on a pretty small scale, and in all these local distilleries scattered around the southwest of France, in the hills, in these beautiful little towns where everybody spends their days eating duck and foie gras and pork and cream and stuff. So the food is very rich, and the brandy is a little leaner than cognac because it goes with the food. It's there and it cuts the richness of the food.
I am sad to realize that the butterfly was only on the plastic and not on the tiny little sniffer itself.
But you've got this lovely little tasting glass now.
I do, and the level looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
How full it would have been, but
I don't think it would be much more full than that.
All right. Well, we got in.
Okay, now that's got does that snap off? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a little, it's well sealed.
Yeah, it is.
See, I'm having trouble getting it. I don't want to risk.
Oh, there
we go.
Nicely done.
Okay. Armagnac is, do I remember right that it's distilled to proof?
It can be.
Can be.
It depends, but usually I believe it's distilled very close to proof. It's mostly just made, on this small scale and very rustically, so you get a little more variety than you do among cognacs.
Well, it's definitely not as aromatic as the Remy was, right? That we smelled it the instant it came out, but this was very, very.
But this is also a VSOP, so it's a little bit fruity.
It's just going to take, I think, a minute to open up. This has been my experience with the bottles.
Also, there was a lot of headroom in there, so there was already a lot of oxidation.
Okay, I guess that's right, even though it was well sealed.
Yeah, but it was sealed with a lot more air than you would get in this thing.
But sometimes what I've found is that they open up after they do get some air.
Yeah.
Too closed in the bottle, and then it takes a minute after they open up. Yeah, not getting a lot here at all.
I've got like a little bit of like spice bread, like spicy cookies.
Okay.
Almost like butter cookies with a little like ginger in them.
Yeah, not quite the airplane cookies.
No, yeah, not so far off. Actually, that's actually pretty close.
Notes of Biscoff cookie.
Yeah, hey, that's not you can do worse at this point. I'm so Pavlovian when it comes to those things.
All right, let's try it. Really switch this one around on my palate. Try to really get it going there.
It's a little like more vegetal.
That's what I was going to say too. has this distinct green note.
And it might be from being a little older, or
Super weird packaging, right?
yeah,
It had plastic on the top of
yeah,
it. So
yeah.
right? What are we getting from that?
But that might not be like entirely sealed,
right?
because there's a little bit of that kind of funky, like green pine type thing.
Definitely funky green.
Yeah, but it's still pleasant.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well,
I'm not loving it yet.
not loving it, but I don't think it's undrinkable. But it is maybe a little past its prime.
Definitely.
This was
Glorious.
perfect.
Yeah, it was really, really pretty. Hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't taste. Oh, I drank out of the.
Well, that's what it's for. Come on.
That's right. It's true. That's true. Maybe that's why it didn't taste right, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
in the
yeah.
right glass.
It's got to be in the right glassware.
Just smell good from here.
Yeah, that's
Right? It's kind of like, it is almost like a little bit of a different smell.
yeah.
Maybe I'm
Yeah, this
imagining.
concentrates it a little
Right,
more.
right. This kind of.
But yeah. There's some like potting shed in here.
Definitely something weird going on here, and I'm definitely going to attribute it to many years of bad storage in this wacky little plastic
I know,
conveyance.
which again is adorable, but
Right,
you probably want to use it pretty quick.
right. I mean, you can imagine in the 1980s.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, if I had those in the 1980s, I would not have any of them now. That's for sure.
Well, I'm glad I have some of this Remy to go back to. If you need to top off to.
I might. Well, we can also taste something also quite special.
I like special things, especially special things that you're offering me. I can't
Well,
imagine it's very bad.
so this bottle is a 1938 Hennessy, uh, pre-war. It was in good condition when I got it 15 years ago. There is little bits of cork in it, and I think some of those are not recent. So, but I drank most of it when I got it,
That's right.
but there's still a little left, and I thought it would be fun to have a sip. Let's see what we got here.
So it's not as fruity smelling off the bat as the Remy was.
No, it's
Right?
yeah.
Those rich, warm.
It's very yeah. This is a remarkably rich cognac when I tried it, and this was the 3 star was there. This is what they replaced with VS, but the
Okay.
3 star was an older blend. It was much closer to VSOP.
And that's exactly it, right? You know what? The stars, the letters, like,
Yeah,
it meant something in its time, but what a 3 star meant then isn't necessarily what a 3 star means
exactly,
now.
exactly. So it's very hard. It's hard for these people too, because this is very expensive to make.
Yeah.
It's labor intensive. The blending, the moving between barrels, the fact that you're starting with wine and not like grain,
Right.
which is
Yep.
seasonal. So you've got to have a huge distillery that sits idle for 9 months out of the year.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of stuff like that that's a problem.
All right. Well, cheers. Thank you
Well,
for sharing
cheers.
this.
Yes. Again, sorry about the cork.
All right. Yes. I tasted Hennessy not too long ago with Ms. Frankie.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about house style, I can definitely taste the Hennessy house style.
Yeah, Hennessy House style is very balanced.
Yeah.
But a little base heavy.
Right. It is. It doesn't have those sort of brighter notes at all.
No, they don't do that. But this is good.
It is.
I think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that old bottle taste in it, but only just a hint, I think.
Well, this is a delight. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure. I'm sorry about the cork. What can you do?
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah, it goes with the territory.
So speaking of sharing, where can people find you on the internet if they want
these
things you share?
I'm mostly on Blue Sky. I have a Twitter account, but I've got like 36,000 followers there, and almost none of them post anymore.
Right.
So I don't post anymore. I've mothballed it for the duration. I mean, if Twitter gets sold and returns to normal, I'll go back. But right now, I'm not enjoying it over there.
I think this Skies are pretty blue on Blue Sky. That's
Yeah,
also where you'll
yeah,
find me. So
yeah.
what's your handle on
Dave Wondrich, David Wondrich
David Wondrich?
at Blue Sky, whatever the rest, I can't remember.
that they'll find you with that.
Yeah, they'll find me. Yeah, I just use my name. And I'm there. Like, that's a good place to reach me.
Yeah.
It's fun over there, or more fun certainly. And there are a lot of nice people.
Yeah, and I am there. I'm one of those nice people.
You are.
You will find me at TammyLC on Blue Sky. I am also on Facebook and Instagram at My Tiny Bottles. If you want to learn the story of the 2 bottles that we tasted, be sure to either click the things that showed up on top of the YouTube video at some point during this video, or you can go to the website and you can find out about these bottles and all the rest of the bottles and the little stories and history behind them. So that's mytinybottles.com. And leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a share, do all those things that make the internet work and that make us feel like someone out there cared about the fact that we got to drink some pretty cool old brandies.
That's always the fun part, but the fun part is also, sharing them and talking about them.
It's true.
And maybe showing people what's out there and
Yes.
and what you can expect from them.
Yeah.
So,
We had fun. We hope you had fun too.
cheers.
Cheers.